The summer of 2025 began with a sense of unease that quickly turned to fear and uncertainty. Across the country, people woke to news that would shake the nation to its core. In Boulder, Colorado, a devastating terrorist attack unfolded, leaving the community reeling and the nation searching for answers. Sirens echoed through the city as emergency responders rushed to the scene, and the world watched as the story developed in real time. The attacker, identified as an Egyptian national who had overstayed his visa, quickly became the focus of a fierce and emotional debate. Questions swirled about how he was able to remain in the country and whether the systems in place to protect Americans were truly effective. The tragedy reignited long-standing tensions over national security, border control, and the complexities of immigration policy. That evening, President Trump addressed the nation in a somber, televised message. He placed blame on what he called lax immigration policies, arguing that the government had failed to keep dangerous individuals out. He promised swift and decisive action, vowing to restore safety and order. Within hours, the administration announced a sweeping new policy. The president declared that the current vetting systems were inadequate, and that a temporary halt on travel from several countries was necessary to prevent further attacks. Flights were canceled, borders tightened, and uncertainty spread among travelers and families across the globe. Officials cited systemic failures, poor passport screening, outdated databases, and a lack of cooperation from certain foreign governments. The administration argued that these gaps left the nation vulnerable, and that immediate action was the only responsible choice. For many supporters, this was a moment of strong leadership. They saw the president's response as a necessary step to protect American lives, applauding his willingness to make tough decisions in the face of tragedy. But critics were quick to respond, calling the move a knee-jerk reaction that unfairly targeted entire populations. Civil rights groups, immigration advocates, and many ordinary citizens took to the streets, arguing that the policy would sow division and fear rather than promote real security. The announcement reignited a national debate that had simmered for years. Should America prioritize security above all else, or remain a beacon of openness and opportunity? Newsrooms, living rooms, and city squares became battlegrounds for passionate arguments on both sides. As the world watched, the United States found itself at a crossroads. The stage was set for a contentious and deeply personal battle over America's identity, its values, and its place in an increasingly uncertain world. On June 4, 2025, President Trump signed a sweeping executive order that would send shockwaves across the globe. The order, announced with little warning, marked a dramatic escalation in U.S. immigration policy, and its effects were felt almost immediately. The new directive created a two-tiered travel ban, dividing the world into those allowed entry and those abruptly shut out. At airports around the world, confusion and anxiety spread as travelers scrambled to understand the new rules. 12 countries, including Afghanistan, Iran, and Somalia, were hit with the harshest restrictions, a full indefinite ban on all travel to the United States. For citizens of these nations, the doors to America slammed shut overnight, regardless of their reasons for travel, be it family, business, or education. 7 other countries, such as Cuba and Venezuela, faced a different fate. While not completely banned, their citizens saw new immigration, tourist, and student visas suspended indefinitely. For many, dreams of visiting loved ones, pursuing higher education, or starting a new life in the U.S. were suddenly put on hold, with no clear end in sight. The administration insisted that the list was determined by strict security criteria, pointing to factors like the use of electronic passports, the ability to share data with U.S. authorities, and cooperation in deporting individuals deemed a security risk. Officials argued these measures were necessary to protect national security, claiming that countries failing to meet these standards posed an unacceptable risk. They emphasized the need for advanced technology, reliable identification, and international collaboration. But critics, both at home and abroad, quickly condemned the move. Human rights organizations, legal experts, and affected communities argued that the list unfairly targeted African, Asian, and Latin American nations, many with majority Muslim populations. They saw the policy as discriminatory, deepening global divides and fueling resentment. The impact was immediate and deeply personal. Millions of people lost access to the U.S. for work, study, or to reunite with family members. Airports became scenes of heartbreak, with travelers stranded, plans upended, and futures thrown into uncertainty. The policy redrew global lines, not just on maps but in the lives of ordinary people. It severed personal and professional ties, leaving families divided and businesses scrambling to adapt to the new reality. For many around the world, the United States was no longer seen as a land of opportunity, but as a closed door, one that may remain shut for years to come. The 2025 travel ban echoed the chaos of 2017 but with key differences. Unlike the earlier ban, which revoked existing visas and caused airport chaos, the new policy targeted only new visa applications. Those with valid visas could still travel, avoiding mass detentions and protests at airports. The real impact shifted to consular offices abroad, where visa denials quietly multiplied. This approach sidestepped previous legal challenges and public outcry. The ban was quieter, more methodical, but just as disruptive for those affected. The absence of airport turmoil masked the deep disruption to lives and dreams. The policy was a more refined, less visible but equally consequential version of its predecessor. U.S. airports in 2025 were calm, a stark contrast to the chaos of 2017. The ban's design kept most affected travelers from boarding flights at all. Yet beneath the calm, anxiety grew as customs officials increased scrutiny for all arrivals. Reports of secondary screenings and intrusive questioning became common, creating a tense atmosphere. Even travelers from non-banned countries felt the chill, leading to cancellations and a drop in tourism. The U.S. appeared less welcoming, with airports now symbols of suspicion rather than hospitality. Airlines faced fewer passengers but more complex procedures. For travelers, the process became stressful and unpredictable. America's gateways had become fortresses, reflecting a nation turning inward. The travel ban's timing couldn't have been more controversial, coinciding directly with the United States hosting some of the world's most anticipated FIFA tournaments. As teams and fans from every corner of the globe prepared to converge on American soil, the new policy cast a long shadow over the festivities, raising questions about who truly gets to participate in the global game. While athletes, coaches, and essential staff were granted special exemptions to enter the country, the same could not be said for ordinary fans. Supporters from the countries affected by the ban found themselves barred from attending, their dreams of cheering on their teams in person abruptly dashed. For nations like Iran and Haiti, the impact was especially profound. Their passionate supporters, who had traveled great distances in the past to support their teams, were now forced to watch from afar. Stadium seats that might have been filled with vibrant colors and songs instead sat empty, draped only with flags as a symbol of absence. The absence of these fans didn't just affect the atmosphere inside the stadiums, it threatened the very spirit of the tournament. The World Cup is celebrated for its multicultural energy, where people from all backgrounds unite in their love of the game. Now the stands were noticeably less diverse, and the sense of global community felt diminished. As criticism mounted, FIFA found itself in an uncomfortable spotlight. The organization, which has long championed the ideals of inclusivity and unity, was now being asked to reconcile those values with the reality on the ground. Journalists and fans alike demanded answers, pressing FIFA officials to take a stand. Protests erupted outside stadiums, and online campaigns like #MoveTheMatch gained traction. Many called on FIFA to either publicly condemn the travel ban or consider relocating matches to countries where all fans could attend, intensifying the pressure on the organization to act decisively. The controversy laid bare the deep tension between the ideals of global sporting events and the realities of nationalist policies. It became clear that hosting the world meant more than just providing a venue. It required a commitment to openness and inclusion. The World Cup's vision of unity and celebration was suddenly at odds with America's new political landscape. For many, the tournament became a symbol of what was at stake, the ability of sport to bring people together, even in divided times. As the world watched, the intersection of sport and politics played out on a global stage, reminding everyone that the beautiful game is never played in isolation from the world around it. The travel ban's ripple effects hit global tourism hard. The U.S. gained a reputation as an unwelcoming destination, prompting cancellations worldwide. Even travelers from non-banned countries feared delays, detention, or hostility. Sporting events saw ticket blocks canceled, and hotels and attractions faced empty seats. Visa processing delays compounded the problem, making travel planning nearly impossible. The message was clear: visiting the U.S. had become a daunting ordeal. The ban risked isolating America, severing vital cultural and economic ties. Empty stadiums became a symbol of a nation increasingly alone. The travel ban pushed America's visa system into crisis. Reduced consular staff and new security checks created massive backlogs. Wait times for visa interviews soared to over 700 days in cities like Bogotá and Istanbul. Students, business leaders, and families found their plans derailed by endless delays. The slowdown became a de facto ban for many, far beyond the official list. Frustration grew among allies and partners, straining international relationships. The gridlock was more than inconvenience, it was a sign of a system in crisis. America's doors, once open, now seemed locked by bureaucracy. The global response to the travel ban was swift and overwhelmingly negative. Human rights groups and foreign governments condemned it as discriminatory and divisive. Refugee advocates warned of devastating consequences for those fleeing violence. Affected nations like Haiti and Iran denounced the policy and demanded change. Inside the U.S., the reaction was split. Opponents mobilized, but many Trump supporters cheered the move as necessary for security. The debate exposed deep divisions over America's identity and values. The travel ban became a flashpoint for competing visions of the nation's future. The world watched as America's image shifted, both at home and abroad. The 2025 travel ban crystallized a clash of values: security versus openness. Supporters saw it as essential protection, critics called it unjust and counterproductive. The policy's focus on certain nations fueled accusations of prejudice and collective punishment. Economic and diplomatic fallout mounted as tourism, business, and academic ties suffered. The debate became about more than policy, it was about America's character. Was the U.S. a beacon of hope, or a fortress of suspicion? The ban drew sharp lines, creating winners and losers at home and abroad. The question of what kind of nation America wants to be remains fiercely contested.